What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for July 11th, 2022. Star Citizen 3.17.2 is still in Wave 1. We have huge updates from the monthly report and roadmap roundup, and guess what? CIG is selling another vehicle, but this one actually seems really useful. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions in there as well. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time every day but Monday. Now, I want to talk a little bit about last week's video. The title and the thumbnail, there was a ton of feedback about it being clickbait. I didn't think it was at first because I followed the project really closely. I knew that it was in Wave 1, but I think the title was like 3.17.2 is finally here, so a lot of you guys clicked on the video thinking it was live. Now, it is difficult to tell, when you're following the project so closely, what you guys may know and what you don't. But I do know that a lot of people come to these videos each week looking for what happened because they don't follow the project as closely as me. So I will make a note of that. I will do better. I do want to make clicky thumbnails and titles, but I don't want to make clickbait thumbnails and titles. So I do apologize for that. Feedback taken, and we will do better next time, but we have a lot of updates to get through, so let's get started. So we had 4 patches this week, all on Wave 1, as we stated before, in the PTU. So we're not moving very quickly here, and that mid-July is sounding further and further away for the release of 3.17.2. 3.17.2G, similar to last week, and everything has been around these networking improvements that are really plaguing Star Citizen, and there was also a number of fixes around the racetrack and reclaimer missions. For those that have tried to get through Twitch Pacheco missions, 3.17.2H is the update for you, I guess. Reputation for her is quite difficult. It's a bit of a grind. They lowered the rep to get the final mission type, which is the Caterpillar mission. If you've never done this, I don't want to spoil it for you. It is awesome. You guys should check it out. Now, probably the coolest update is the ability to attack players who are trespassing, and you're able to commit infractions against them, basically. The key scenario here is a player with a crime stat is clearing that crime stat at a bunker, but they have friends who don't have a crime stat. You go down to do the bounty, you shoot at one of their friends, you get a crime stat. It makes no sense. This is the resolution to that. I wish they would do something where if you're in a party with somebody with a criminal rating, you have a criminal rating, and then you are freely able to be attacked, because it would work all around the system then, rather than just in the underground bunkers or places where you could trespass. But to each their own. Then for 3.17i, there's not much sticking out here, but combat assist beacons are apparently playing a lot now, and I've heard upwards of 200k. What are your experiences? Let me know in the comments, please, because I haven't seen it yet. And there's just a major update for something that has plagued me in 3.17.2, not just 3.17.2. 3.17 as a whole. From 0 all the way to 2, I've been crashing non-stop, but the crash handler wasn't working, so it was impossible to report those crashes, so CIG couldn't fix them. They fixed the crash handler. Now I'm reporting constantly, just put a little blurb about what I was doing, where I was, and hopefully, the stability for this patch will be much, much better. I'm kind of glad it's staying in 3.17.1, I guess 3.17.1 on live, because this needs to be more stable, and it would be really great for 3.17.2J. They're still working on the networking. It looked a lot better, but they did do some playtests for Jumptown and Siege of Orison, and I heard it wasn't. Kind of tough, but that Jumptown update, and the reason they did the playtest in 3.17.2 was because there's a new ground vehicle, the Anvil Centurion. We're going to talk about that a bit later. But they wanted to see the dynamics of Jumptown with it, because it's basically made for Jumptown. So I'm really excited to see that one when it's live, and there's kind of, all the stakes are there. And starting out, we have AI tech for the monthly report, and we've been speaking about this tech for over a year now, NavMesh, right? This is a big deal. This gets NPCs walking around on planets, and we still have lackluster AI, so it doesn't really matter that much, but I have seen NPCs land. I haven't seen them get out of the ship yet, but I've had a couple scary NPC moments at the outpost, so yeah. I'd say good all around, good for our first implementation. Hopefully it improves whenever our servers improve. Animation, the main thing to point out here is the team is working on rescue and transport missions. We have a lot of samey missions right now. These aren't. So just, that's one thing to note. There's no timeline of when these are going to come out, but no more of the samey missions would be great, so I figured we'd point that out. For ship art, brand new merchantman updates are the standard ones that we've been getting, but the SRV is much further along than I expected. It's moving into the gray box phase. They also touched on an unannounced vehicle, which is now announced. It's the Anvil Centurion. It's a ground vehicle, and it basically is a hammerhead turret on a ballista instead of missiles. So kind of cool, useful. It's on the PTU right now, but I will talk much more about that ship at a later date because we don't have any details on how much it costs and any of the specs or stats around it. Community is usually a topic I would skip, but we're not because we can't. They're talking about 4.0 here, and they're going to do it's really exciting and really scary at the same time. It sounds like they're doing the 3.0 burn down, if you guys remember that. And that it's exciting to hear the information about 4.0 and getting constant updates on where they are. But it's scary because burn down was a long time. And I think people are really concerned about when 4.0 and all these things, and will it be delayed? We don't know, but communication is good. I hope they communicate well. I'm looking forward to it, but it is a nerve-wracking and scary time for Star Citizen fans all at the same time. Those are going to start in September, and yeah, I'm looking forward to them, but cautiously. And then Arena Commander. They did a lot of general bug fixing around Arena Commander, Star Marine, and supposedly Theaters of War. But the main thing that they talked about was adding new maps to Arena Commander, and I want to take a step here and talk to you guys about something. I think this is going to be our answer the call topic this week. Arena Commander currently is the place you go if you want to be the best of the best in terms of ship combat. It's the least amount of desync, best frame rates, the easiest way to tell who's good and who's not. The issue here is there's no incentive for a person like me to play. So personally, I feel that there needs to be a general overhaul of the entire game mode to incentivize players to play the game. There's no reason to play the game other than to get better, but I don't think a lot of people are focused on PvP or getting better in PvP as much as they would be if the game progressed further along, right? So I don't know, man. Arena Commander was always meant to be a place where they tested and they learned and they improved what the PU would be. And it just doesn't seem like they do that enough now. So I'm going to do an answer the call on it. I want to hear your feedback below in the comments, and maybe that will kind of give me some good questions to ask. I'm going to reach out to the sweatiest of the sweatiest people that I know, and we'll talk a bit about Arena Commander. And yeah, there's zero mention of Theaters of War other than a post from, I think, Ulf, which also mentioned nothing about Theaters of War. So, you know, he posted in a thread that eventually got locked where somebody was like, hey, it's time to talk about Theaters of War, but it isn't, apparently. So I don't know, guys. It's just, you can't keep doing things like this. You can't keep saying you're going to make something, don't do it, and then say nothing. It's just not okay. Character features now is a perfect example of how to communicate and what to do. They simply said, there is so much logic in making the move all button that it took really long. The issue here is that on ISC, they said we didn't have enough time. So this is just general feedback to whoever speaks to the devs when we do updates like ISC. Jared, whomever, it doesn't matter. It is so clear here that when somebody says, we didn't have enough time, it sounds to me, personally, this is how I hear it, is that we prioritized something else. So we didn't have enough time. But when you say we were working on it, but there was a ton of logic we had to do, now we didn't have enough time makes a lot more sense, right? So kind of digging that out of them and getting them to say it on camera would make, I think most people get their updates from ISC. So that would be a really big improvement, I think, in terms of communication there, because this was great. Now I understand why the move all button wasn't here for as long as it was. And you understand that something that seems so simple just isn't. And they also want to make the ability, this is a massive quality of life improvement. When you hit the inventory button, any items in your vicinity would show up as well to be interactable and draggable into your inventory. We get that in most games, just like a move all button. Very quality of life improvements. I think the only other thing that we would really like to see is like a control click, shift click over to your inventory. That would be really great. And then for gameplay features, salvage was worked on, waiting on cargo refactor stuff, which I don't know, sounds like it wasn't ready for 3.18, which should have been now, but whatever. Engineering gameplay is progressing though, which I want to talk about this for a second. It's really exciting. It is a massive step forward for multi-crew, because guys, sitting in a turret, I'm sorry, it's just boring. Whether or not you're messing around with life support like we see in this UI here, or some of the other buttons in the inventory, or on the UI, I should say, as far as that goes, looks really interesting. Just being able to do things on your ship that aren't combat related and are part of a crew sounds really, really fun. Montreal locations, they're working on the Hurston City, Lorville, and they're bringing it up to the standard, I would imagine, of a Microtech or an Orison, which is just great because, yeah, Lorville is a really cool city, but it's definitely lagged behind what the standard of a city would be in Star Citizen. This is a major piece, which is in-game branding. They really want to make the first 30 minutes better for new players and veterans alike, and they're trying to solve navigation around locations with signage and things like that using the in-game branding team, which is a new one. So hopefully we'll see really good quality of life improvements going forward. For narrative, this is another section I would usually skip, but there's a new mission that's coming that is narratively intense. This was their words. That sounds really cool. The mission at Kovalex was awesome, but we need I think we need more lore injected into the in-game universe, and exploration and things like that would be really fun. Online services, many of you guys may not have experienced this, but some of us have in droves. The call bug, which is you can call somebody in-game and get their marker, and you can see where basically it's a god marker, as if they were a bounty, and you can see where they're going, no matter where they are. And that's finally fixed. I didn't deal with it much, personally, but I saw some people who really, really suffered harassment because of this issue, and I'm glad they finally fixed it. And then lastly, for UI, they're continuing to work on the star map revamp. It's always worth mentioning, and specifically on navigation and making it more intuitive with quantum travel. And they also added chat into building blocks, which is part of their discussions and figuring out what they want to do with our visor. And I think they're calling it lens, which might be what we see when we're not wearing a helmet. So that'll do it for the monthly report. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And starting out with roadmap updates, we had tractor beams and gravity. These are the two biggest updates by far. Again, talking about multi-crew from the monthly report update, this is another kind of section of that, really tying this year into the multi-crew year in a lot of ways. Tractor beams, you may not realize it, but even if you're just sitting in a turret with a tractor beam, you can take part in cargo, piracy, salvage, and a lot more things. Like you could just pick up a player character and move them, things like that. So being useful in a crew with other people, big deal. I'm not sure how important the gravity will be, but again, adding to the UI of engineering, that is another piece of the game world that we can manipulate, a piece of the sandbox that we can manipulate, and that's big. And anything that you can get better at and be more useful for a crew is awesome. Then for armor and outfits, nothing crazy here, just pyro gang stuff that we won't see for a while, and shopkeeper outfits. Unified item ports, though, I do want to talk a little bit about, because I think they just want to make the UI more readable, but in reality, the only thing they need to do is get rid of the third-person UI. In my roadmap roundup update on SaltEMike 2, the only positive thing or only thing anybody said about the inventory that was good was that they were using it to peek corners with. That's not what inventory UI is for, okay? Every time I press I see a wall half the time because you're usually hiding behind cover, interacting with things, and it just makes no sense. Please use a paper doll CIG. I can't say it enough. This is just stupid at this point. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Do the right thing. Let's go. Let's go. And then for AI improvements, just more tasks that we talked about in monthly report, just transport missions, things like that. But again, stuff we won't see for a while because the AI just typically don't work. Missions and interdiction, this is also a pretty big deal. We're going to get missions as we travel around the world. They're just going to randomly pop up near us. That's cool. And then they're also similar to that. Interdictions are going to have different levels of difficulty. I think the idea here is to make the game world feel more alive, where it feels incredibly empty right now. What I hope they realize is that we're going to get more players in, hopefully, and I really hope a focus starts to become how to bring us together, right? Jumptown's a huge success, but that's the really one of the only examples of that we have. Weapon handling is the last thing that we're going to talk about. Not a big deal, but just adding animations to things like customizing your weapons will just make the game feel more immersive. And just real quick before we jump into other updates, we did have a Star Citizen Live for video updates this week, but it was just another game dev one where they made like interaction things that we interact with. I think one of them was like a bed of some kind. Nothing really major to note here, but if you guys are into that stuff, link will be in the description for it. And then for Foundation Festival, this is a new event where they're promoting community and, more importantly, the guide system. And there are a number of rewards for partaking in that system. Basically, there are 3 hats: a black hat for your first completed guide session, green one for your second, and a black cap for your third. Additionally, there are rewards for completing guide sessions under certain categories. So basic, you get ship skins for Cutlass Black, Vehicle Combat Gladius, FPS Valkyrie, missions, Freelancer, Trading Caterpillar, Touring, you get a 600i. Skin Miscellaneous, you get Star Runner. Refueling, you get the Arrow, which a lot of people thought were weird. And Medical, you get the Cutlass Red skin. There was a little bit of drama around this because you used to have to complete 5 in these categories, and there are just way more guides than there are players who are looking for guides, and the community team jumped on this right away. It's just 1 completed guide in the category for each skin, and they really are going to try to improve this and get this stuff in game and make it more player facing rather than on the website and stuff like that. Then there's also a free fly, and I was quite vocal about this because I didn't think it made much sense to have a free fly in a server and patch that is just not very stable, but you know, they will continue to run them when they run them, I guess. If you refer anyone during the event, you're going to get a Drake Dragonfly as well as the person who you refer. And lastly, there's a contest where you have to write up a big blurb, I think, about your org, and you'll get some ship rewards as well. Sneak peek. This looks like the cockpit of the Argo SRV, but who knows? Some people thought it might be the unannounced vehicle. Some people thought it was the Drake one, which I don't think so. And then subscriber promotions. We had bobbleheads, green one for $10 subs, white one for $20 subs, and a blue one you can buy on the sub page. These are kind of whatever for me, but let me know what you guys think. A lot of people were unhappy with them in my Discord I saw. But that'll do it this week, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah. So again, going to try to do better with the titles. Do apologize for that. And we may have a very cool video coming out this week. We're looking for Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and expect more of these coming in the future. So this is something that we were working on with SaltEMike 2, but we think we're going to bring it to SaltEMike 1. And I'm really excited to share it with you guys. So make sure you get subscribed if you haven't yet. And as always, make sure you leave a like and a comment on anything we discussed today. And that'll do it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week.